Hi, good afternoon. My name is Sonali Galardieste Figueres. I'm the founder of Green Queen and Ekowarehouse. Green Queen is Hong Kong's #1 green living guide online. We also help to curate the Made in Hong Kong Pavilion, which I hope you all can check out and see the amazing artisanal products in the natural and health world that are coming out of Hong Kong. I also am the founder of Ekowarehouse, which we are excited to launch at this show. Ekowarehouse is the first global online B2B platform for certified green products. So it's essentially the green version of an Alibaba.com or a green online trade show, basically. So we hope we get to meet a lot of you and talk to you in a capacity as a buyer and a supplier. Today I'm here to talk to you about selling the organic dream. So we're going to kind of talk about the organic market around the world, and we're going to cover things like size of the market, opportunities, different types of organic consumers, and very, very excitingly, we're going to cover the difference between kind of marketing to the Western consumer and the Eastern consumer, where there's a ton of growth in the market, and the Eastern consumer is a little bit of a different consumer. So we're going to cover some of those points. So why the organic market? Why do people buy organic? The different types of consumers, East versus West, and then overall trends. So some important figures to think about when looking at the organic market and why it's such an amazing opportunity. So in the US, which is the first market in the world where the organic product industry has really done very, very well, the natural products market is 290 billion. In the US, in the organic section only, that figure is going to be 35 billion for this year. So we're talking about a huge market. The latest figures for the global organic product market are from 2012. Those are the latest that we can get. And the global market in 2012 was 63 billion. We're looking at over 80 billion this year for the global market. In Asia, the potential for growth is huge. You've got a growth rate of above 20% for the organic market alone. And you have some really interesting opportunities. For example, Japan imports 60% of its food products, and they have less than 1% organic domestic production. So you're talking about countries that are looking for organic products and don't have the supply. Another important figure is a point of information is Europe. Europe is the most established market for organic products. So people in Europe are the biggest consumers of organic and natural products. And so the market is the most developed there. European customers also tend to be very well aware of labels. Whereas in the US, labels are not as looked for. And in Asia, people are still trying to figure out a little bit more about what label they need to look for and what the labels mean. So, 3 points to keep in mind if you're looking to get into the organic business or if you're already in it. The growth is exponential. People want cleaner products. Obviously, in his opening remarks this morning, Stuart, Diversified's general manager, covered that, and it's a really important point. People are desperate for organic products. They want to know where their food's made. They want it to be clean. They're looking for variety. They're looking for options. Extremely profitable. Another figure from the previous slide is that consumers are willing to pay 20 to 30% more for organic products. This is worldwide. This is an important statistic to keep in mind. That's a huge difference, especially since if you're an organic product supplier, you know that it costs more to produce those products or source them. Another thing that is important to keep in mind is strong media penetration. The organic story is a sexy story. People like it, people will cover it, people will write about it. Why do people buy organic? So we've divided that into 4 different groups of reasons. The #1 reason is personal health. Those are reasons to do with nutrition, so understanding that in organic produce you get better nutrition. Obviously, globally there are so many health issues, and we understand now that what we eat plays a huge role in our health. So obviously, choosing organic makes a big difference. There's also a belief, obviously, that organic is the healthier option. Also, people are taking charge of their diet. They're not just relying on random decisions. They are actually deciding to really focus on what they eat, and part of that conversation is choosing organic. Next part of why people choose organic is food safety. Fear of harmful food. This is especially true in this part of the world. Last year, there were 117 food scandals in China. That is an increase of over 70% from the year before. Many people believe this increase in food scandals will continue. This will make organic products a lot more attractive to Chinese customers and consumers, and greater Asian consumers as well, since obviously China exports a lot of their food products, especially here in Hong Kong. Over 90% of what we eat comes from China, in the F&B world and in just grocery stores, etc. There's also, obviously, leading from food scandals, a distrust of government agencies and just traditional ports of authority, where we feel like we're not being told the truth or we're not given all the facts. Obviously, nutrition is a field that has exploded in the last 5 years, and we are learning a lot more. We still don't know everything, and so it's harder to trust, the food pyramid and things like this, or your family GP. Another issue that is really important is GMOs. And I don't want to get into a big discussion about GMOs because there are definitely great arguments on both sides, but essentially a lot of people are scared about the proliferation of GMOs in our crops. A lot of what we eat contains corn and soy derivatives, most of which is a GMO crop, are GMO crops. Organic is also a very aspirational lifestyle. So people feel like it's trendy, it shows some status, it's usually customers that are educated or self-informed or see it in the media, and they want that organic kind of badge. This goes along with the yoga movement and the juice movement and just kind of being more healthy and fit. This has become an aspirational life goal. Lots of peer pressure as well. If everybody next to you is eating organic, you kind of want to eat organic too. You don't want to be the only person that's not choosing the safer choice, the healthier choice, etc. And then finally, the last set of reasons is the social and environmental concerns, which I would say is where the roots of the organic movement first started, which is the health of our land, the planet, the climate change, farmers, and what they're doing to the crops and themselves as well. Usually organic labor is more fair trade. That's not always true. There are exceptions, but obviously there is a consciousness about the workers on the farm and agricultural practices, etc. Now we're going to move on to the 4 different organic consumer types. These are obviously not, definitive. These are just our views on 4 different ways to talk about the organic consumer. It's also really important when you're marketing to a consumer that you understand which consumer you're targeting. So we've got the eco warrior, the aspirational yuppie, the mindful mom, and the safety seeker. So the eco warriors are typically consumers that have been choosing organic for a long time. They are autodidacts. They teach themselves. They are very clued up on the news. They know all about world issues. They're usually very concerned about the health of the planet. These things are important to them. They're actually quite invested in choosing organic for environmental reasons. They tend to be individualists, a lot of entrepreneurs in this group, a lot of people that are usually ahead of the curve. I'm sure you have friends who have been eating organic food before it was even called organic for, 30 years. These are the people we're talking about. They come from different walks of life, but they are committed to paying more and choosing the cleaner products. They are motivated by things like environmental concerns and climate change concerns. They are looking for companies that are what we call conscious capitalist companies, so that companies that care about the triple bottom line, that use green packaging, that pay their workers fairly, that care about the suppliers they're using, and that will disclose that information to their consumers. These are the kind of customers that make up the eco warrior group. They respond well to sometimes alarmist messages that have to do with, the issues with climate change. They are very individualist, so they are looking not to make the choice that everybody else is making. So usually when marketing to them, we want to think about appealing to their individualism and the fact that they're leaders, they're trend leaders in their communities. You can find these types of consumers at health food shops, holistic health centers, independent retailers. They're usually not at the grocery store down the street that everybody goes to. They're usually looking for that special, unique brand, that special, unique story, that special, unique product. Next, we have the Aspirational Yuppie. This is a newer type of consumer that has come up in the last 5 to 10 years in terms of buying organic products. So these are your classic, extremely well-educated, usually in like very, very upper middle class, prestigious jobs, prestigious educations, well-traveled, very high disposable incomes, looking to make what they perceive as the status choice. Organic is definitely today a status choice for some people. I won't pass judgment on what that means, but it certainly is the case that there is a whole group of consumers that want to be seen making the safer, cleaner, trendier choice. There is a whole lifestyle associated with the organic products movement. The yoga lifestyle, you know, the holistic health lifestyle, the I want to be a nutritionist lifestyle, you know, as my part-time job. You know, people who are really trying to get into this conversation because they see that it is becoming a big trend. How to interact with them? Obviously, these are, they respond well to brands. They want to find, you know, trendy, interesting brands. They are looking for brands that are not too mass market, but not too small either. We're talking about, you know, your niche brands that have a great story, that provides status for them buying the choice. There's an element of psychology here to them buying the organic product. There's a feel-good factor. I'm making the right choice for my children, for my husband, for my wife, for my friends, or for me. I want to be seen by others as being healthy. I want to be disciplined. This is kind of in parallel with the gym lifestyle and the fitness lifestyle. You know, there's a whole kind of movement around this. You can, obviously, they're the typical yuppie customer. You can find them in luxury hotels, airport lounges, 5-star restaurant, fitness centers. They respond well to marketing on social media. So that's how to reach out to them. Then we have one of the most important types of consumers for the organic products market, and that is moms. Moms are incredibly important. Moms want to make the safest choice for their children. And usually you see in customers that when they have a baby, they change. They become informed. They suddenly want to know, what are they putting in the mouth of their child? What type of milk are they feeding the child? You know, what's in the diaper that they're giving the child? Are there any toxic chemicals? So moms are a real area of potential. And one of the things you realize with moms is moms are on a budget. They're usually in charge of their family expenses, domestic expenses, groceries, etc., cleaning products, and they are looking for convenient, safe, and well-priced options. So when we're talking about moms, pricing is an issue. They are a price-sensitive group. Obviously, there are extremely wealthy moms that don't care about price, but the average mom is actually looking to buy organic products, and she's looking for products that she can afford. And you see there's lower middle class, and upper middle class moms that all fall into this category. Because obviously being a mom means buying a lot of things all the time. So psychologically, when you're always buying things, you care more about the price. It's costing you more because, you know, you're the one paying the bills. So price is a really important part. Moms also tend to have they tend to have strong peer-to-peer communities. So as a brand, it's important to get in there where the moms hang out, find out where they're having that conversation. A lot of Facebook groups, a lot of other social media communities. Also, schools are a great way to kind of get in as well, because schools are also looking to help moms make healthier choices. Obviously, that conversation has been started by people like Alice Waters in the US and Jamie Oliver in the UK and elsewhere. So that's a great way to kind of target moms. Moms are somewhat brand conscious, but what's really important for moms is to make it easy for them to understand, because they're usually busy and they don't have a lot of time and their attention is elsewhere because they're usually at the grocery store with 3 kids that are screaming. So your labels need to be clear, they need to make sense. It needs to be easy for a mom to figure out what you're selling and why it's safe for their child. So, keeping in mind. And then lastly, we have an interesting new group of organic consumers. We call them the safety seekers. I would say this is a consumer that is coming more out of this part of the world: Asia, India, China, Thailand, Malaysia, Hong Kong even. What they are is usually people that it's the first time that they've achieved middle class status. So they're usually like first time university educated in their family. They have, for the first time in their family history, they have a disposable income. They're able to kind of make choices that are not just defined by price. And so they are starting to get educated about organic products, cleaner products, safer products. They also tend to be very respectful of authority, but starting to distrust what's happening. And this is obviously very true, again, in the Chinese food scandal situation. So I think, the average Chinese person wants to trust their government, but they are having a hard time with the food issues, because 117 scandals in a year is really hard to swallow. So you see them coming to Hong Kong, getting milk powder here, cleaner products here in Hong Kong, because we have a lot of imported selection. So this is the kind of customer we're talking about. They tend to have white-collar jobs, but they tend not to be the head of the organization. They tend to be rule-following, and they tend to be kind of your typical mass market. They're looking for brands that are bigger, that they can trust. They're not going to trust as much the indie brand, the niche brand, but they are looking for brands that are safe. So again, labeling is important here, making it clear which certification you're using and why. So that's it on the 4 types of consumers, and now we're going to go to the differences between an Eastern consumer and a Western consumer. And I want to preface this by saying to some extent, these are stereotypes, and they are based in research, but obviously there are all types of consumers from all types of places in the world. But typically in the West, the organic consumer and the organic movement is one of self-gratification. There's a lot of, I feel good that I'm making this choice. My body is my temple, and I want to make it healthy, and I want to have the best possible options. The people in the West tend to be kind of skeptical of traditional sources of authority like governments. It used to be that organic was part of the counterculture. Ironically, it is now becoming a lot more mainstream, but this is still how it's seen. There's a lot of peer influence involved. There's a huge focus on baby and children's health and well-being, which is, as I mentioned earlier, when people start to get really interested in making the organic choice. And lastly, Westerners like boutique independent brands, or brands that are perceived as such. They tend not to like MNC brands as much, or not trust them as much. So from a marketing point of view, you're looking at that real niche, and they want to hear the story. Why was the company founded? What are the values of the company? What's the company mission? What packaging they're using, as I said earlier, where do they source their ingredients? That story is very important to the Western consumer. The Eastern consumer is not as concerned with the story of the brand. The Eastern consumer is concerned with safety, quality, and status. So if your brand can show that it is a safe choice, it is a certified choice, it is a tested choice, if your brand can show that you're an established brand with a reputation that you can lean on, media presence. So this is Eastern customers tend to respond much more to traditional forms of advertising and marketing. They usually tend to trust bigger companies because there's an association with bigger companies and better testing and safety. And the other thing that's interesting about the Asian customer is that they have a long history of holistic health traditions, like acupuncture and Ayurveda medicine and such. And so there is this kind of bridge for them between the organic movement as it is today and their traditional forms of health and medicinal and culture. Overall, just as a quick recap, what we're looking at here is you've got a growing middle class in this part of the world that is hungry for safe products, that is interested in looking after their health. There's obviously huge amounts of what we call the Western lifestyle-induced diseases, diabetes, heart issues, etc., these all have been proven to be able to be addressed by diet, and so there's a huge focus on that. Organic is a hot topic. It's a sexy play in the media. People are interested. People want to read about it. It's definitely a buzzword, whether you're on social media or in a newspaper. Organic certifications are becoming more and more important in this global world because people want to be able to know, okay, I'm buying organic, but how do I know it's organic? Actually, 2 days ago, the US government just came out and said they're going to start really cracking down on illegal usage of the word organic. It's going to be big fines, and they're going to start enforcing that as of now. So there's going to be some movement in the organic certification world. So it's really important to have the right certification and explain it to your customer and be very upfront. That goes on to the point about labeling and how important it is to label for your customer and understand what your customer is looking for. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, the GMO concern. So usually the organic movement is very much in hand with the non-GMO movement. So that's sort of it. The organic market is it's growing, it's profitable. People buy organic products for many reasons to do with the environment, health, safety, and status. Successful brands tend to understand exactly the kind of consumer they're going for and what motivates their customer to buy organic. And Eastern and Western customers should be approached a little bit differently. So thank you very much, and I'll take questions now, if anybody has any.
Thank you. I noticed some of your slides when you were talking about the 4 different types of consumer. It was interesting. It was exactly the same as Alex from the Soil Association's presentation this morning. So it's interesting. He called them slightly different things, but they were exactly the same people. So it's good that you're all on the same page.
That's great.
I'm going to ask the same question I asked him, though. It would seem throughout those 4 different customer types, especially in Asia, there is more of a gender bias towards the female. Would you say that that's true? And if it's true, how does one go about marketing perhaps more to a female audience than to a male?
I don't have exact figures, but I would say my instinct is to say it is true. Because Asia is still a growing market and there's still a very much growing middle class, there tends to be more traditional forms of family dynamics. The reason why a lot of brands will market to the female is because A, they take care of the kids, and usually they take care of, as I said, the household spending. So that's the important conversation to have. However, I would say that younger Asian male consumers are very interested in their health. And there is a way, I think they're more, they tend to be the more educated, well-traveled type of consumer, and they are very into the kind of artisanal movement, the fitness movement. You see this from the huge amount of the huge proliferation of gyms here in Hong Kong and across Asia. So and a lot of men doing yoga. So I think there is a male customer, but the traditional patriarch male, I don't think he's making those decisions. And so I would say that when you're marketing, you want to look at the mom category for the moms, and then in general though, in terms of like the aspirational yuppie, that customer can be male or female. I mean, I think they're hanging out in the same places. They're on Facebook, they're at the gym, they're at yoga, they're at the health food cafe. That's where they are, and that's where to get them. And I don't think there needs to be a specific gender bias. I think it's when it comes to children and household that the gender bias becomes more pronounced. Hopefully one day that will no longer be true.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
Where have you been for the last 20 years?
Just researching.
Done your homework, that's good. My question is perhaps a bit deeper and more philosophical. There seems to be this understanding that the Eastern consumer is not caring about the environment. They don't seem to have an environmental awareness. But as you said, that is the roots of the whole movement. Why do you think this perception is there that in the East we don't so much care about our planet like they do in the West, for example? Where's this coming from?
That's a great question, and I'm glad you asked it, because I would like to say that, again, the Eastern consumer part that I presented is very much based on survey answers, and I would say a very middle-class consumer. However, the eco-warrior type of consumer that I mentioned is here in Asia, and there are people that care deeply about the environment and are trying to do something about it. A lot of the supporting organizers of this trade show are all local organizations that are trying to make a difference in the environment. But the reality is, when we're talking about large groups of middle-class Indian consumers and Chinese consumers, these are people that this is the first time that they've had the chance to have that extra money to spend. And I think that when you are in a lower income, socioeconomically in a lower income, it is much harder to spend your time caring about climate change and environmental concerns. You're usually trying to survive. So I think that just like in the West, where we had mass industrialization and a big middle class growth 50 to 60 years ago, especially after World War II, which is when the organic movement took root, I think that that's going to happen in Asia too. We just need to give people a generation to have that extra time and extra attention, and you know, it's essentially what I'm saying, the privilege of making the safer choice. Not everybody is able to make that choice, and that's important to keep in mind. Did you have a question?
Hi, thanks Sonali for the very good presentation. I'm also into sustainability, so I have a question about the certifications, because the people that I've spoken to, and it's businesses as well, who are supposed to be sourcing for sustainable products, most of them do not know which certifications represent what, so they may have a company-wide policy to source for certain things. Will you be putting those certification information online on your site?
This is going to be a shameless plug for Ekowarehouse.com, but part of Ekowarehouse.com is that there's an educational element, and if you go online right now, we have the 200 certifications that we believe to be independent, non-governmental, and non-profit, and you can search by industry type, by certification type. We have a description and a logo and a name for every one of them. So all that information can be answered on our site. That's one of the reasons, the things we aim to do with the site, because one of the things we learned when I first got the idea for Ekowarehouse was nobody understands anything about certifications. It's really worrying. People are using labels that they don't know what they mean. There is also a lot of labels that are for-profit, that are started by trade associations to represent for-profit interests, or that are just started by certifying bodies that are for-profit. So there's a lot of misunderstanding, there's a lot of misinformation. There's no easy way to answer that question, because in our research, myself and Tracy, my co-founder, we've looked at over 1,200 eco-labels. So there are over 1,200 eco-labels in the entire world that cover the gamut from sustainability, recycling, textiles, seafood, organic, fair trade, anything that could be construed as a green effort. Okay, and out of those 1,200, less than 200 are governmental, nonprofit, or independent. So there's a lot of stuff out there that is not necessarily authentic, or that, I mean, you could say that a for-profit label is also fine, but it's important that consumers and businesses know.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your attention. And if you have more questions about certifications, anything you want, Tracy and I are in FO7, and we can answer any of your questions. Tracy's also giving a presentation tomorrow on the top 6 organic certifications in the world that will be very, very helpful for people looking for information about which certification to choose and why, and for which market. Thanks very much.